right, we're doing Daf Yomi now.
Here we go. Let's.
All right, Elamandamar Trefio lettuce. So according to the opinion that an animal with a terminal illness can give birth, Ma'ikalamemro. So then what are we talking about here?
What are we talking about here?
So the scripture tells us itach, with thee, b'doim and lach, something that is similar unto thee. So since the scripture was speaking to Noah, maybe Noah himself had a terminal illness, tamim ksivbei, but it says he was perfect. It is written concerning Noah that he was perfect. But perhaps his perfection was in his ways. Haya. Tzaddik ksivbei, but it's written concerning him that he was a righteous saint. But perhaps he was perfect in his ways and righteous in his deeds. You should not think that Noah himself had a terminal illness. Because if you would think that Noah had a terminal illness, then the merciful Lord would say unto him, so would God say unto Noah, only those who are like unto thee should enter the ark, and not those who are perfect? So v'hashta the nafka le'me'itach. But now that we derive this homily from the word with thee, l'chayo zera lamali, since it says in order to give life to the seed, to the progeny, why is it necessary if being perfect, if not being a treifa means that the animal could give birth? So if you thought that it's because there are other animals that are not a treifa that do not have children. So if that's all we're talking about, you would think that it would be okay to bring animals that were old and too old to have children but did not have a terminal illness, or animals that were unable to have children. That's why God had to write in the Torah zera, that to have a progeny, seed. If you ask, if it says, now when we say that 3 days before a pagan festival, you can't do business with pagans. So is it, when it says 3 days, the holiday itself, Tashema, come listen to this. Rabbi said, someone the words of Avodah Zarah, Shlosh lefneim u'shlosh lachrein aser. That is 3 days before and 3 days after the pagan festival that's prohibited to do business with it. So if you would think that it includes that the 3 days include the festival itself, would that mean that Rabbi Shmuel's calculation would include the holiday twice, meaning really 2 days and then the holiday and then 2 days? Since the Mishnah says 3 before them, and it's also teaching 3 after him. Tashma, come listen to this. Rav Tachlifa bar Avdimi Amar Shmuel. Rav Tachlifa bar Avdimi is the name of Shmuel. Noitzum l'divrei Rabbi Yishmael olam aser. When we speak of the Nazarenes, perhaps it's speaking of Christians. It's not clear who it's talking about. It seems that is who it's speaking about. According to Rabbi Ishmael, it's told that Wednesday would be permitted, meaning because the note stream are people who observe Sunday as a holy day. So then if Sunday is included, so then before 2 days more would be Friday, Saturday, and 2 days after would be Monday, Tuesday. But if we say that it's those days are not included, so then the 3 days before Sunday and 3 days after Sunday are included. I think
it would not.
So according to Rabbi Ishmael, what are we asking here? The Hebelei Deya, with them without their holidays, meaning 3 days before and then the holiday, and then 3 days after the holiday. Not so those days before and after not include the holiday. Leave the Rabbanan Mai. So then this, according to the rabbis, what are we talking about? Amar Ravina said, Tashema, come listen to this. These are the pagan festivals of the pagans. Kalenda, Starunia is usually said as Saturnalia, Ukratessim. These are the names of the pagan holidays. The translations, Kalenda, Saturnalia, and Kratesis. I think there's the German translation sometimes has a better Kalenden, Saturnalian, and there's Sigestag.
Crazy knows German. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't read it. You're all the way over there.
Amar of Chanan bar Rava said, Kalenda
You have a filter on?
I don't know. I think it's just that my camera's dirty or something. Kalenda Shmani Yamamachar Kufas Tanura. So Kalenda is 8 days. Kalenda with a kuf, a kif, is 8 days after the solstice. I believe it's referring to the winter solstice. Stanuria, which is translated Saturnalia, Shmoina Yamam Lefnei Tkufa. That's 8 days before the solstice. Simon Manach Acher V'Kedem Tartani. As the citation for this is before and after you formed me.
So what are you supposed to do? Only buy stuff for food?
So, so if you want to say that the holidays itself is included, Asra Havu. So that means
don't think so.
it's 10 days. Tana Kule Kalenda Chadyemohu Chashevle. Or is Kalenda considered to be 1 day all by itself? I'm Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi says, Tashema, come listen to this. Before the holidays of the pagans, Shloshi Yamim, 3 days. If you would think it's them and the holidays, you should say that the holidays of the pagans are 3 days. So if you say Haida Kasani Lefnei Dayan, this which is taught before their holidays.
There's a dude in the road.
Oh.
Sorry.
So then after the holidays it's taught.
Rabbi, it's testy. Oh, Krauses are coming.
So you want to stay home?
Is that them?
You want to go see?
No. I'm not wearing a proper shirt for that.
To not count after the holidays. The Mishnah should have said the holidays of the Gentiles 3 days before them. So we learned from this. We learned that the holidays without 3 days without the holidays. That's where we learned it out.
They were my friends, so
and if you ask, it's because of they're making what's the whole issue here? Is that they're making a profit, or meaning if they're making a profit and they're going to be happy and they're going to praise the pagan gods, or is it we're worried that we don't want to put a stumbling block in front of the blind, causing them to sin? What difference does that make? The Islay Behemel of the day. Well, what if they have their own animal? The Amrad Mishum Harvocha, if you say it's because they're making a profit, then they're making a profit. But if you say don't put a stumbling block before the blind, the day, it already belongs to them. But even if they have it already, does that mean that we're not violating, not putting a stumbling block in front of the blind? Vasanya, we learned in the Bryce, Rabbi Nassan said, Where do we derive that a person should not hand a cup of wine to Nazarite who takes a vow against drinking wine, a Nazir? Abram and Achai Levnei Noach. And how do we derive that you should not hand a limb that was taken from a live animal to a Noahide? Talmud Loimar. So the scripture teaches us, Lifnei Iver Leisitein Michshol. In front of a blind person, you do not put a stumbling block. But here, if you didn't give it to him, he could take it for himself. Still violating, putting a stumbling block before the blind if he takes himself. What are we talking about here? What are we working with here? Every Nahara. What if there's two passages over a river? Daikanami, similarly, the Kasani Layoshet. If you teach, you don't hand for like Kasani Layiten, but doesn't say you don't give Shmamina. We learn from here. Bayalahu. So he asks, Nasav and Nasan Mai. What is the definition of doing business? Rabbi Yechon and Nasav Nasan Aser. If you already did business, it's prohibited. Reish Lakish and Nasav Nasan Mutter. Reish Lakish said if you did the business already, it's permitted to keep the money. Eisvei. So the argument is from Yechon and Reish Lakish. Yechon and argued with Reish Lakish. Eidin shel goyim nasav and nasan asurin. If you do business with a pagan on their holiday, it's prohibited to derive any benefit from whatever money you make from it. My lav l'fnei Eidain. What about not before the holidays? Eidain davka, not the holidays themselves specifically. There are those who say Eisvei Rabbi Shimon Lakish Rabbi Yechanan. Some say Rabbi Shimon Lakish argued with Rabbi Yechanan. Eidin shel goyim, when it comes to the pagan festivals, nasav and nasan aser. If you did business with them, it's prohibited. A day in Lifnei Eidain Loy, but that's only on the holiday. But before the holiday, even though it's prohibited to do business, if one violated the business, then it's not prohibited to derive the benefit, even though one violated. Tana Eidain Karele.
Thank you, Tati.
So this is taught in both cases that they're called the holidays. Tanya Kavasei, the Reish Lakish. It's taught similarly to the teaching of Reish Lakish. That's prohibited to do business with something that has a permanence. If something will go bad, it'll get rotten, then it's not a problem. Even with something that is kept, if you did the business, is permitted. Tani Reb Zvid taught you can sell them something that is perishable. You can't buy it from them. There was a heretic who handed a Caesarean denarius to Rabbi Princely, not the famous Rabbi Judah the Prince, but his grandson, on a pagan festival. Havayos Reish Lakish Kamei. Reish Lakish was there in front of him. He asked, how can you do this? He took it, he's going to go and thank his pagan god. If I didn't give it to him, he would be angry. And that would cause problems. Reish Lakish says, take it and throw it in a ditch in front of him, down a hole. Then he'd be even more angry. Well, make it look like it's an accident. To ask them and to ask from them, to borrow and to lend from them. B'shlam al Shilan, Kamar b'chlahu. You understand why it's a problem to lend to them, because they're benefiting from it. But to borrow from them, you're taking away from them. We make the decree against lending and borrowing together because they're very similar. But Rebbe says no, because they're going to go and thank their pagan gods. So for that reason, I hope I didn't break my phone. Did some damage. Avolishmain lemute kumayit. Alright. L'halvoisam to lend, to borrow from them. Shlomo l'voisam mishum de kamarbachlu. If we understand we're not allowed to lend to them their money, their benefiting. A little voisman my, but why? What's the problem with borrowing from them? Rabbi says Gezeira little voisman matul voisam. It's also a problem. We make a decree from both sides. Rava Markula Mishum Dazal Moidalum, and Rava says it's both because they might go and thank their pagan gods. Oran Lefrayman. What about to collect from them? Mishlam Lefora Mishum de Kamarbachlu. We understand we don't want to pay them back because they're benefiting. But to collect from them, they're losing. Rabbi says we make a decree because they're so similar. Rabbi says no, we're worried that they're going to go and thank their pagan gods. We need this because we're teaching if you're doing business with them, because if they benefit and they have a profit, and they're going to thank their pagan gods of Lishalman, but you're borrowing from them, they're losing. And if you're teaching it's to borrow from them, it's because it's a important thing. And they're going to go and thank. But to borrow from them, they're just having trouble. Don't go back and give back the coin. If you're saying about teaching about to borrow from them, it's because you're taking back from them against their will. So they're going to go and thank their pagan god. But to collect from them, if you don't give back the coin, it's going to feel trouble. They're not going to go and give thanks. It's necessary. Rabbi Yehuda says, you can collect from them. Rabbi Yehuda, does Rabbi Yehuda not hold the idea that even though he's upset now, he's going to be happy later? Vasanya, we learned in the Bryce, Rabbi Yehuda says, a woman should not apply lime on her face as a dilapidatory cream on the holiday, because it damages the skin. And Rabbi Yehuda agrees with a lie that lime that's able to be taken off in the holiday, that she may do this dilapidatory cream on the holiday, even though it's causing her pain now. It makes her happy later because it improves her skin. Rav Nachman says, let's leave away the laws of Chol Hamoed, of the intermediary days of the holiday. Even though they're upset now, they'll be happy later. When it comes to a pagan, if you're collecting from him. Our Mishnah is not like Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha. The Sanya, as we learned in the Bryce, Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha said, "Milva b'shtarvein nifron mehem." If you lend with and you keep a receipt, you don't collect from them. Milval pen nifron mehem. But if it's only done without any receipt and it's only a verbal agreement, then you collect from them. Because it's like you're saving the. Rav Yosef was sitting behind Rav Abba coming to Rav Yehuda. Abba was sitting in front of Rav Yehuda. Yosef came and Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha. He sat and he said, the law is like Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha, Rabbi Yehuda. The law is like Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yeshua.
Hadamaran, the law is like Rabbi Hoshua, like Rabbi Joshua, like we said, Rabbi Yehuda the Sanya, and like Rabbi Judah, like we taught. What if someone gave wool to a dyer, and you asked him to dye it red, and he dyes it black, or you ask him to dye it black, and he dyes it red? Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Mason, Loisam, Tzamrei, he has to pay money for the wool that he ruined. But if the profit is more than the loss, so you can give the profit. But if it's better than whatever it is. Thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe. Comment. We'll see you later. I had right to